Hello, everyone, and I'm here to try and help you with your week six stats part of your class. So, try to do my best to remember how to do all this stuff and the steps I had written down. So, the first part is just the relabeling. So, I'm going to relabel this sheet one to data. And one of the reasons I like relabeling things is so that it's consistent. And if you follow the instructions, it shows everything exactly how it is. So the next thing I do is I go down here to the plus and I hit it to make a new sheet. This was called statistics. Okay, so with those two created, the first thing I'm going to do is do the correlation. And the correlation was over here. So it's technically within the data pack, but right now we're just going to do it without it. So if I do correl, this returns the correlation coefficient between two data sets. Then I hit tab to bring it up, and then I click on the data. So I actually had you do here C and C, which will work. All that does is say, not CC, sorry, it's DD. What that's doing is just pulling in all the numbers and everything in D from the beginning to the end. Then I hit comma to go to the next quote unquote array. And then I want to click on the data again. And I could click on E colon E, then close parentheses. And then I hit enter and it shows the correlation between those two as 0.905. So correlation is R. It is something in statistics where we just say how two things are tied together. And it kind of makes sense because correlation between our length of stay and the cost of stay kind of makes sense. The next thing we had to do is we had to make a pivot table because we're doing the proportion test by hand, sorry. And to do that, we had to go back to data here. Then I want to go to insert and pivot table. Now, since I have it in anywhere in the data, it will automatically select. And then I want to click on existing worksheet and then go over to statistics. And I think I had it as E2. I'm not entirely sure. And I hit OK, and I come up with the pivot table. So from here, I want to click on length of stay. I'm sorry, what am I doing? Oh, no, I don't remember what I was doing. So let me undo that because I remember what I forgot to do. The next thing we wanted to do was determine whether something was a long stay or short stay. I do believe that's what we are doing. Let me double check. So I want to make sure. Yes. So we had a long stay indicator, and that's what we really care about. So what I did was undo everything. I'm sorry. So what I did is if, and then I do D2 here, just I can click on it, and I click as greater than 15. So basically, is it longer than 2 weeks? Then I want to return a yes, otherwise, no. And that's just if cell I'm looking at, whatever I'm doing, greater than 15, then I hit a comma, and then if it's true, I want it to say yes, which is a long stay. So I put that in quotes, and then I hit a comma again, and then if it isn't, I want to put that in quotes as well. So it's going to return either the word yes or the word no. If you use a number, you don't, and you want it to be a number, you don't have to use the quotes. And that just returns no. And then I want to copy this all the way down. And since we have 6,000 some odd data points, I'm not going to click and drag it down. That takes too long. So you see, as I'm up here, if I go to the bottom right corner and it turns into a small little plus, I could double click on this and it copies it all the way down, all the way to the very bottom. So from here, I can click on Insert, Pivot Table again, and it auto selects everything. I want to do it in an existing worksheet. Back to statistics, and I'm pretty sure it was E2. Let me double check. I want to make sure everything's the same. If you follow the exact same cell, no, it was H2. So I want to go back here, and instead of E2, I want to select H2. And if you make a mistake, you have to delete everything or life becomes really hectic. And then I hit enter, and it creates this pivot table. So I want to put the location into rows. I want to put long stay into values. It does as its account, which is fine. And then I want to do long stay into columns. Now, since we are doing a proportion test and we don't want our life to be a pain, we are going to get rid of one of them. I forgot to put this in here. Let me go ahead and check this. So I will add this back in. So in my example, I had just two of them. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the valley view. So to get rid of one of them in the pivot table, on this row labels, I click on the little down button and I deselect one of them. And all my numbers will change based on that filter. And that leaves us this part here. So from here, I did this very specifically, is if you follow the instructions specifically to the point and you go and start in A4 with proportion test, you can copy everything exactly as it is, and it will, let's see if it'll actually let me do it. It does not. Actually, it does. It copied the formatting, but that's okay. If you copy those exactly, P1, and it does the math for you. So what it's doing is it's taking the proportion of yeses per general hospital, or for general hospital, proportion of yeses for Hillside's pediatric, and then the count for both of them. And then P hat is the overall yeses for both hospitals combined. And 1 minus P hat is proportion of no's. From here, we do some math. You find the differences between the two. You find standard error using a very specific formula. If you're interested, please see me on the Discord and I could talk on all kinds of time on this. But if you're not a big deal. A z-score is found by taking the differences divided by the standard error, which gives us a negative. If you think back to statistics some time ago, a z-score is how many standard deviations from the mean you are. You could use norm.s.dist to find the p-value based on your z-score. If it is less than 0.05%, then something is significantly different, and you would say that the proportion of the general hospital was lower than the proportion of Hillside Pediatrics for long stays. What does that mean? People at Hillside tended to stay longer than people at General Hospital. That's all I have for this one. So this goes through the correlation, setting up a pivot table, and doing a proportion test. If you do it, proportion test in A4, and literally copy everything, if you have this in H2, it should all auto-populate. And if it doesn't, then you can find me and we could get you working that specifically.